Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday Night Breakdown. Daniel Ratledge and Dave Forrester with you to go through all the action in the British Basketball League this week. Bit like an old episode of SMB. There's loads of games this week
Yeah, no,
comparatively.
I begin to forget some of them, so we better crack on with
Yeah,
them.
yeah, we best crack on. Let's go back to Thursday night. And London Lions 94, Bristol Flyers. London Lions 98, Bristol Flyers 84. And full disclosure, I went out for a meal with my parents. It was their golden wedding anniversary. So 50 years of marriage trumped the first half of London Lions against Bristol Flyers. And
Safe call.
I haven't had a chance to watch the first half, but I got back and it was just before the TV timeout in the third quarter, and I was like, oh, it's an 18-point game. But I did watch back the first 5 minutes of the second half, so I've seen all of the second half, but not the first.
Right. It was interesting actually because um, Bristol came out quite aggressively uh,
Mm.
and scored the ball well. The Jacob made some tough shots. Ollison made some tough shots. You know, they were ready to play. Smith came in, gave them some good minutes. Um, and because of that, you know, and you have to make tough shots to stay with London because London,
Mm.
you know, eventually will. And London don't start off at the speed that they necessarily need to play. They do have a kind of have it in check a little bit. Um, and it was kind of encouraging for Bristol, but all the time you were thinking that the shot making wasn't necessarily sustainable.
Mm.
Albeit, you know, Trajan Jacob can make some tough shots because
He can, yeah,
it
yeah.
goes miles up in the air, he shoots them off balance and he swishes them, you know. So um, so it never got to that kind of point whereby you thought, you know, they're going to take them all the way. But you know, they played with a lot of energy. London, it'd be wrong to say that they were going through the motions because they're playing as hard as they need to. Um, and they've got far bigger fish to fry on the way in relation to the games that they've got to play. And they are going to get everybody's best shot, I think, certainly first time round, because my impression is that they're not overly fussed at this point in time on scouting the BBL. I don't
Mm.
think London, I don't think that's really within their kind of their ambit at the moment. I think that they're more interested in themselves, which means that teams are getting shots that they might not get later on in the season. Um, but overall, you know, Johnson and Jacob and Ollison, you know, they're three, you know, potentially explosive wings,
Mm.
and they were able to, you know, get to the point whereby they made enough shots to keep the game close. And then the beginning of the third quarter, London kind of notably
Yeah. So it was four.
defense.
Yeah, 41-38 at half time, and then Bristol started turning the ball over, London forcing the turnovers. I doubt Conor Morgan has yet discovered the delights of Sunday Night Breakdown, Dave. But if it is in his podcast rotation, he basically did exactly what you said last week. There, just went bang, 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 three threes, London up 15.
Yeah, well, two things. I mean, on current rates, they should probably be passing Milton Keynes services by the time it comes online from tonight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Milton Keynes, not Milton Keynes, the one at Watford Gap or wherever. I don't know. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
a little while since I've been down there.
yeah.
No. Um, so you know, he might want to join in. Yeah, I mean, it was his kind of coming out
Mm.
in relation to BBL because you know, teams seem to have kind of figured out that, you know, they can take away everybody else, but then he's the one who pops open because you got to take the roller, you got to take all the senior Sharma, you got to guard the guards, and suddenly there's this guy who doesn't run around much, who just kind of stands around. So we'll he'll be the one that we'll take half a step off to help on all the others. Well, he's going to kill you.
Mm.
You do that, you know, because
Yes.
he's going to kill you. And you know, the stretch four is so important. The
Mm.
stretch four in a good team is so important because they're going to get shots. They're going to get open shots, and the percentage at which you knock them down can be, you know, a difference maker for your team. And yeah, I mean, and he has, because he has that size, he's basically an NBA shooter without the NBA athleticism that would get him in the league.
Mm.
Not in the league because he wouldn't have anybody who could guard in the league. You know,
Mm.
foot speed teams would isolate him in the screen and roll and all that stuff. But in relation to his kind of his footwork and his smarts and his catch and shoot ability, you know, close to the level that we're talking about.
Mm.
And yeah, I think he has an Irish passport as well, which
He does, yeah.
for a strange reason means that he counts in the BBL as British. So he's a hell of a pickup, for them. Yeah, he's one of those guys who, if you leave him open, he'll kill you, and he did.
And he did. That was basically that. Bristol had one of our little fake comebacks in the fourth quarter to get it to 10, but it never looked like they'd get all the way back.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's tough because their deficiencies on last year, and we always compare teams against the year before, even though it's kind of a false comparison because of different teams. But people think growth is linear. That if you win 25 games this year, last year you're going to win 28 games next year. It just not work like that.
It's like GCSE results, mate. It's last year plus 2%. Doesn't matter about the cohort.
Yeah, well, except this year, I gather they went down a bit.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was deliberate.
From sitting through a year 11 explanation evening of how much we're going to put your kids through the ringer over the next 9 months at the local Catholic school on Thursday night. Yeah, apparently they went down a bit, but still quite good according. So I'm comfortable. But yeah, so people think that, and it's not the same. And they have, they've had it. They've got a lot resting on Lucas. He's the point guard, but he's kind of the only real one. Whereas last year they had Watson, Gale, and they had Miller, and then Green has really kind of hit a wall early on in his BBL.
Yeah, he has, doesn't he?
Because he struggled with the size, and and he kind of beat up on an underprepared Plymouth team in his first game, and since then he's come up against, when we talk about it, three pretty solid teams with pretty solid defenses, and obviously not getting the touches that he had. So they got a little bit of stuff to do. I understand why Andreas was actually kind of happy with the way that they played. But the question is how sustainable is it? And the concern for me is their guard play. Because if Olsen and Johnson have to be the guards, have to be the guys who are creating as well as shooting, that's going to cause a misuse down the line.
Matt Morgan with 25, but bizarrely a -3 on the or plus minus. Connor Morgan with 17, Ola Shani 12 and 7. Johnson had 20, Ollison 14, and Green 10. Let's go to Friday night. Plymouth City Patriots 73, Manchester Giants 77. Obviously, this was Plymouth's first home game. They were pumped up for it, the crowd into it, as they always are down there. Faulkner wanted to show out. First 4 minutes, they're 17-6 ahead.
Yeah, and Joe's back as well. Let's give him a mention.
I've got that. I was going to mention it at the point at which he came back, but yeah, Joe Hart's back as well.
Joe's back, which is good, because I thought I was a bit of a curse. The only 3 guys I ever coached in the league who are still there have all been injured. Glasgow, Defoe, and Hart. Great. Yeah, so he's back. Yeah, this wasn't a particularly well played game. I watched it back this morning. The teams they're clearly new teams. Obviously, they've got this massive differentiation in coaching experience, like 1103.
1101 to 3.
3, yeah. So you'd think that would help them, but Manchester kind of stayed together quite well during the game. Plymouth started out fast. Manchester have lots of things going on with their guards, because then Harris and McNeil are new, and Walsh has been getting a lot of opportunities offensively, a lot of usage out of him, and then they've got Boussier coming off the bench as well. So they've got. I haven't kind of figured out yet whether it's Harris or whether it's McNeil. Who is it going to be? Who's going to be the kind of the leading guard at the beginning? And to start with, they struggled. Plymouth came out with 3 guards. Came out with Taylor Johnson, Dusha, and Faulkner, which is 2 point guards and a 2 guard basically, and played small quite a lot of the game actually, and that kind of helped them with their speed. But it also meant that some of their deficiencies in their defensive rebounding in particular really kind of showed up, and at times both teams couldn't handle any form of defensive pressure from the other team, and we're just coughing the ball up and turning the ball over without getting shots.
Yeah, Lawton and Lewis made a couple of plays, got Giants back, and then Joe Hart as Trail came off the bench, hit a three right at the beginning. Great to see him back. They're up 10 again. They're up 10 at the start of the second quarter, but then Giants hit 10 in a row to tie it up at 26. And as you say, a slightly scrappy first half, 32-36 at the interval, despite there was the nice bit from Faulkner where he hit three threes in quick succession.
Yeah, well, Faulkner's obviously a fault. We'll get to him. I mean, he's going to be an interesting guy to watch over the course of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know which way he's going to go. I mean, the things I've seen him which have really quite entertained me. And we've seen, he comes with the swagger, and that's nice. I like players with a swagger. The question is, what's their swagger like in 3 months' time if their team is 4-0? That's the bottom line. Are you someone who's going to elevate everybody else, or are you somebody who's going to make his shots, but your team's not going to win, and then alienate everybody else? And that does happen in teams. I don't know if Mason Faulkner is A or B. I know guys who've been A, I know guys who've been B. But it'll be interesting to find out because he's got a personality.
Yeah.
I
mean, as I say, I saw them last week in front row, and he was box office. He was fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly, which is great. So I've got no issue with that. It's kind of the boring coach's head, which kind of comes on.
Yeah.
How is it all going to play out with him? But it's better to have the talent than not. That's the thing. So he's a big upgrade for them that way. Atwood and Wiley are both guys who can score. DeAndre Johnson, he probably likes his 3-point shot a little bit better than I like his 3-point shot at the moment.
Same.
But no, he may end up being a 40% shooter for all I know. I don't know enough about him. And Plymouth are obviously basically built to play a little bit smaller, basically. Manchester, they got a bunch of guys who can all, I think, contribute in the league, but who's going to elevate them? Jamel at the moment is the one who's doing that, which you'd expect because he's been around and he knows it, and he's probably the best athlete out of all of them. Legend, obviously, we've talked about, has really stepped up.
For me, it's the point guard. It's the point guard position, isn't it? They need somebody to step up and be the guy at that position, because I don't think Jamel from his position, or Evan the way he plays, or Legend can be the guy if they're going to be a team that wins a lot of games.
You kind of need one.
Yeah.
The reality is you kind of need one. We all know, we've all seen it for years about point guards in this league. And they got three, Harris, McNeil, and Bussier. And Bussier looks to me like a guy who's happy with the ball in his hands, like a point guard as well. So how they come together is going to be critical. But in this game, what they did do was play with enough heart and hustle to stay close and kind of I'm not saying out ball, but just out graft Plymouth in the bigger possessions, and it's a great congratulations to coach for his first win, basically. He tells us at the end.
52-49 with 2 to go in the third, and then Plymouth didn't score for 5 minutes. Manchester 14 in a row. McNeil had 6, Stampley had 4, and suddenly they're up 11, 52-63 with 7:22 to go. Taylor Johnson helped get it back. It was 63-67 with 4 to play, but to be honest with you, Manchester in the closing minutes made enough free throws to just keep themselves ahead.
You called the Nick Lewis 3 in the corner near the end, which is, you don't want to give him that space, bang, swish, and I did think that the game almost turned on who gave the ball to the opposition the most at times. I'm talking about like the one sequence of the carry on Cowboys with the 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
You had the Benny Hill music on behind it, and that kind of comes when teams don't have kind of a specific rules dug out, and you kind of get the ball. You want to go as fast as you can down the other end, and I get that. But I think they've both got quite a lot to deal with, quite a lot to accomplish.
Some kinks to knock out. One
Yeah,
thing where I remember looking at the turnover stats at the end and thinking, oh, it felt like there were more because of the way they turned the ball over.
but yeah,
Mm.
you can deal with the travels and the
Mm.
charges, that type of stuff. It's when you're giving the ball to somebody 30 feet from the basket because they're putting you under a bit of token pressure. And there's talent there. There's talent there. There's not much size on either team apart from legend. Length, a little bit of length, and the biggest thing in the first 2 months of the season is learning your own team and figuring out what you've got. And at the moment, it's Wiley and Johnson who are playing ahead of Noble. Noble, it's only played 8 or 9 minutes in that game. For Manchester, I don't know if Walsh got hurt in that game, but he didn't play that much in that game either. So yeah, wait and see how they go, and just kind of chalk this one up to not quite sure how it's going to continue in the future, but not overly optimistic for either team at this point.
Faulkner with 20 points, 5 of 10 from 3-point range. Taylor Johnson, 18.6 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. Wiley, 15.6 rebounds. They shot 36% from the floor and 8 of 33 from 3.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. 8 of 33 is tough.
Yeah, Anderson, 19.8 rebounds, 40 minutes. You don't see that very often. Lewis, 11, and McNeil, 10. So, let's go to Newcastle Eagles, 73, Cheshire Phoenix, 80. Now, obviously, there was some, I don't know if you know this, there was some issues with YouTube on Friday night, banging in adverts where they weren't meant to be.
This shows a broadcast criticism free zone.
Yeah,
so
it's nothing to do with the broadcast. Is nothing to do with the broadcast.
Exactly.
It's somebody from Google's going to get a phone call on Monday morning, I think.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. But even if it wasn't, even if it was, this is not the forum at this point.
At this point. So I went on to YouTube to watch this back because obviously I was doing the other game, and only the second half was available because they'd taken down the first half of the stream in an event to try and get YouTube to stop putting adverts on it. And then so there was only the second half, and even on Synergy there was only the second half. So all I've got from the first half here: Jordan Johnson, 12 of the first 15 points for Newcastle, just 3 Delpesh free throws. Other than that, but Knicks were hitting the threes to stay in front.
My first thought when I walked in the gym was why have we got a ref who reffed the game in London on Thursday and Newcastle on Friday? That was my first. I thought, what, really? And I don't think necessarily the refs were particularly bad in this game, not from my seat anyway. But some of it's something I did want to just touch on because I'm, being as much as I can, trying to not make excuses, but give explanations as to why certain things aren't necessarily looked after the right way, and why at times referees don't get the best of the ability to do their very best. And to see, I think it was Simon Unsworth, to see him, refereeing up until 10:10 in the Copper Box on Thursday, and then at Newcastle at 7:30 on Friday, really surprised me because I don't see how that can put you in the best position to be as good a ref as you can be, particularly when there's only 7 games on the weekend, and we've got quite a substantial body of refs around here. So that surprised me, and I don't. And it happened down south this week as well. Gavin Williams did 3 games, albeit his were in Bristol and Plymouth, so you kind of get away with that a little bit. And I think David Griffin did 3 games as well, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And no one's told us to say this, and I haven't got anybody kind of linking in and saying, "Oh, say this," because I'm not getting any games or anything like that. It just seems to me really kind of strange. And I'm sure there'll be some proper reason that I don't know anything about.
But
anyway,
my understanding is that they've sort of removed the regionalisation of it, so the fact that sort of goes to your London and Newcastle question.
Well, I'm happy enough with that.
They're trying to use the best refs as many times as possible. It's broadly the word I was given in the pre-season referees meeting.
Okay, well, in that case you have a panel of how many? You have a panel of 15 or a panel of 18. At the moment,
yeah, I don't know what the actual number is.
I think the numbers are. I mean, we used to have. You remember the days when they all had numbers on the website?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, I'm guaranteeing you there's more than that because obviously I watch all the games and I see that. So So yeah, so no, every refs need preparation like players do. And this league actually has a rule whereby you can't play back-to-back games if you're more than 300 miles away from your home game. And so you couldn't play Newcastle on a Friday night, and then Newcastle have to play in Plymouth on a Saturday. And Copper Box to the Virtue Motors Arena is pretty close to 300 miles. So it's good enough for the league. It's good enough for the players. It should be good enough for the refs as well. That said, there's only a couple of moments which really kind of piqued me on that. The game was quite interesting because Cheshire are just a real the difficult way to describe them. They're just almost like a fairground novelty. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually mean that in a good way, because they're so different to basically everybody else at this point in the league, right? Lloyd just referred to it on the commentary tonight. They are a matchup, not even a matchup nightmare. They're a matchup, kind of house of horrors, because they are starting a kind of a point guard who's a solid point guard, and Rideau really impressed me after his first game where he didn't. But then the main creator is Rye, who is 6'6", not particularly quick, but has every play in the book. Then the big guy is White, and White doesn't stand inside the 3-point line. And you've got two catch and shoot guys on the outside. And basically, what they do is they find a way of attacking whoever is the weak link. It's very NBA-esque, and that means that you have to find a way of matching up with them, defending them first and foremost, and then dealing with their offensive rebounding as well when they all crash because they've all got running starts. And Newcastle started their normal starting lineup and with Del Pesh, and kind of played the matchup game early. And what I mean by that is they thought, we've got they're going to start a stretch five, we're going to throw it inside. The problem is White is actually a pretty good post-up defender. Whereas he's technically a small ball player, small ball five, he's not small, right? And in the post, he basically, Del Pesh couldn't score on him and couldn't get close to scoring on him. And that took Newcastle out of their rhythm early because they were throwing the ball inside to exploit what they thought was a mismatch. It actually had the same thing happen for London tonight with Olaseni. When they're throwing the ball inside Olaseni, it wasn't working because White can step in and all the other guys are smart and they can kind of collapse. So Newcastle basically had no rhythm apart from Jordan Johnson, who was really impressed the first few games of the season. And Cheshire moved the basketball around to the point whereby, they got some good looks, and Maceo Jack, in particular in transition, and White knocked down one as well, and they knocked down some threes, and the game went nip and tuck basically the whole first 37 minutes, really.
Yeah. So the traded scores third quarter. Eagles stayed ahead. 7.5 to go. They led 65-61, but just one score in the next 5 minutes for Newcastle. Rye had 7 of 13 points for the Knicks in the same time to lead 67-74. So let's get to the end.
Before that, there's one thing that I don't know what it was saw on the camera, but the end of the third quarter was an important point in this game. Because we had about a 4-minute delay.
Yeah.
And whilst the refs huddled up to talk to the table to put 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds back on the clock. After what was either a violation or Larry Austin stepping on the
I thought he stepped out of bounds was the call.
It was probably a step on the sideline. And the clock didn't stop immediately, but it certainly didn't stop us for as long as it wasn't as long as the time that they put back on that allowed Aaron Wright to get the basketball with 4 seconds, and Newcastle had no idea how to guard him. He made a nice floater. 4-point game became a 2-point game. Those 2 points were quite important at the end of the game because it was a one-possession game for quite a significant period of time. But more than that, what got me was, why can't the replay, whilst they were talking about it, the replay is on the big.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it thinking, I wasn't sure if they called sideline or the 24-second violation, because I didn't see the ref. It's the far end of the arena from me, but I was looking at it thinking, well, that's the time on the clock. We can all see it, and they weren't allowed to look. You've got this was just basically guesswork, which is nonsense, absolute nonsense. And for all I've whinged about timeouts and this, that, and the other, probably the most egregious failure so far this year is not to have the replay. You know, we've never had it before, so you can't complain. And then again, I'm complaining about games lasting too long, and replay will make it last longer. But you know, but I don't see those as contradictory, because I think the replay is for something like that, even if it's just for goaltends, for time on the clock, that type of stuff, you can sort it out in 10 seconds. Instead, we had a 4-minute discussion. You know, and it was tedious. I'm afraid it really was. You know, and I don't think they got it right at the end. So and there's reasons for that. So yeah, so that happened. Then what happened in the fourth quarter was Newcastle actually defended Cheshire pretty well in relation to taking away the threes in the second half. But what happened? But Newcastle really struggled to score, and their offense, to be frank, was pretty turgid. It was firstly, you know, without Taj Green was, you know, I gave Taj Green a ton of praise last 2 weeks about his maturity. He was right back to, you know, second year of college in this game, because he had 0 points and 1 rebound at half time. He seemed disconnected. He was argumentative, picked up a double technical. I don't know if there was some talk in that. I don't know what it was, but you know, that Newcastle team is going to struggle to win games if he is as ineffective as he was in this game. So what they had to do was decide what lineup we're going to go with, and they went back with Del Pesh with about 5 minutes to go, and there's a 5-minute drought you talked about. For me, they had to go small at that point, because you know, Ray was able to score on the way. Ray was able to pick those mismatches up. Del Pesh wasn't converting inside, or they weren't getting the ball inside, so you weren't getting the benefit at one end that you're losing out at the other end. Austin came out because he made a couple of probably not the smartest of plays, and Mark lost his patience with him. But that ended up with Austin only playing 20 minutes in the game, which is nowhere near enough. And McGill and Johnson playing in the mid-30s. And Newcastle put a lineup on there, which basically he kind of got it back with about 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And brought Austin and I think Whitfield back in, but by that it was too late.
Let's get to the end there. A minute and a half to go. I thought it was a bad foul by Rideau because of the situation with the time and score. Sent Johnson to the line for 2 free throws, 70 to 74.
Yeah.
And then Johnson fouls him back, 1:21 to go. Rideau goes 1 for 2, 70 to 75. Next play down, Johnson gets the switch onto White, so he looks to attack him, gets to the free throw line, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 71-75. And then I thought Cheshire ran a bit too much clock on the next play, and as a result, Rideau had a tough shot at the end of it.
I like Riddle's floor game. I really did. You know, he was far more impressive than I anticipated that he would be. He's got a good, you know, otherwise he wasn't in the best shape the first week. He's got a good shoot. He's got good shoulders, knocked down shots, and has a degree of kind of confidence about him. It was interesting in this game how much Ben Rode has started, because you know Kristen hardly played.
Yeah.
I don't think Holden had a point or a rebound, or you know, he was played 10 minutes. It was all about the starters in this game and the guys that he was ahead of the game for. But at the far, when Newcastle matched up for them size for size defensively, it became harder for them because there wasn't an easy option to go and pick on. And what Rye is really good at is assessing these mismatches. If you're too small, I know where I'm going to get the ball. If you're too big, then I know where I'm going to get the ball, and then I'm going to make the right decision. And they didn't have that towards the end of the game. So yeah, tough shot from Rideau. And I think, did McGill get fouled?
No, Austin with a typical Larry Austin drive to the basket was able to score in transition. So it's 73-75 with 30.8 seconds to go. And then they brought the ball down, but the shot clock hadn't started. So they had to reset the shot clock. Interestingly, to 18. I only made it 5.5 seconds had gone off, but there we go.
I watched that as it happened. I wasn't particularly perturbed about it.
No, I to be honest with you, I didn't notice it until I've just looked at what I've written down and thought, hang on a minute, that's not 6 seconds. So it's a Knicks ball in the front court. Jack drives in. McGill trying to take a charge hits the deck, which then meant that Jack was able to get his
offensive
own
rebound.
rebound. I actually thought, because our game had finished and me and Ro was stood watching the game in the office at the end. I said maybe he could have kicked it out there because there were two open people in the one at the top and one on the wing, but he instantly went and held the ball in like that because he was expecting a foul, and then they did get the foul call. Interestingly, Josh and Azania were both thinking there might have been a jump ball, but I must admit, in real time, I said I thought that was a foul.
I wasn't shouting. I was probably 8 feet, probably second row, probably 12 feet from it. I wasn't shouting for a jump ball, you know. So, but I wasn't. If I didn't, that's the first time I thought that's a. So yeah, no problem.
So 2 free throws, 73-77. Timeout, advance the ball. Johnson, not a great pass, and White's able to tip it away from neighbour. Rideau runs back and one, and I said, "Good night, everybody. I'm off," and left at that point.
Yeah, I think that's when I left as well, because it was about 10:05, and I needed to get out of the car park, which is not the easiest car park to get out of if you leave at the end of the game. Yeah, no, it was. I remember, I think McGill, but the reason I talked about those 2 points before the end of the third quarter was that 73-75 becomes 75-75. It's a bit of a different game. And that's a question of timing and making sure we get things right, which is why we need replay for that type of stuff. I thought Cheshire deserved to win because they stayed true to themselves and they knew what they were a little bit more than Newcastle did. Newcastle, as I say, they kind of toggled between big and small. They played, I think, Johnson's really impressed, but McGill is still in his kind of first 6 weeks at Plymouth phase, whereby there's a lot of he was not great at the beginning. He was great at the end, but not at the beginning. There's a lot of shakiness with the ball, and he's not secure with the ball, and his decision making isn't great. And the ball doesn't pop at the moment with Newcastle, and with those three guards, the ball should be popping around. Because because all it takes is two good passes and someone's attacking the rim. Now at the moment it's kind of your turn, my turn, and it's all a little bit predictable because when and obviously they haven't got Defoe, so they can't throw the ball into Defoe for 4 or 5 post-ups or get Defoe for the 15-foot jump shot on the roll. Be the kind of the Delpesh doesn't give them that, but I thought Cheshire were really, really kind of true to themselves. Yeah, Rye is really good. That everybody knows Rye is really good. He is defendable, but he is somebody that he's still going to be impactful in the game, even if you defend him really, really well. And the guards, the young guys, as I say, they really didn't play that much. But the guards, Jack and Rideau were also, really, really good. And White, really solid post defender. And if teams just look at him and think, oh, well, we're just going to go and beat down on him, you're not going to do that. You've got to get him up in the screen and roll and attack him, which is kind of what London did at the end of the game tonight. So, yeah, I liked a lot of what I saw from Cheshire in the game. I still like the competitiveness of Newcastle and the fact that they were in the game, despite the fact that they really never had any rhythm most of the night offensively. And I think they've got to stick or twist at times with lineups in relation to, they've got lots of talented guys. You might have to go small. You might have to sit somebody down. You might have to piss somebody off, to use a phrase. In relation to, are they producing or are they not? Because you can't, I know Austin was a bit fired up with it being Cheshire, and he's probably a little bit bit more in his head than for normal games. But he can't just play 20 minutes in a game. That game, he wasn't in foul trouble. He has to play more than that. And I know there was a couple. He was sat on the bench for a couple of minutes waiting for a timeout. But even so, he's too big a weapon in that game for him to play 20 minutes. So they got to find a way of figuring all that out.
Johnson 18.6 assists. Austin with 12. The only two in double figures. Eagles shot 41% field goal, 5 of 16 from 3.
The problem, sorry, Dan. The problem with that is created 16 3-point looks. You've got all these guards. You've got Will Neighbour, and you've got Whitfield can shoot the ball absolutely, and they're not creating the looks because the ball's not popping around the way it is with some of the other teams. So, and obviously the thing with having small guards is sometimes you can't make passes over over the defense to get those corner threes, but they've got to find a way of moving the ball quicker to start generating some looks, and also the shooters have to find a way of getting into the corners to get open.
Jack, 21 points, 5 rebounds. Rye, 19.7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Rideau, 15.6 rebounds, 5 assists. They shot 39% actually, and 9 of 32.
Yeah, that's what I say. Newcastle defense is actually pretty good, in relation to taking Cheshire out of what they wanted to do, particularly in the third and fourth quarters. They basically shut them down from the 3-point line. But they couldn't score, and that's a problem.
So let's go to Saturday. Surrey Scorchers 67. Sheffield Sharks 70 after overtime. A couple of early fouls for Justin Robinson, but Surrey was still able to open out a lead. Surrey have got a lot of players, so it was one of those things during that game. They've got a lot of players. 14-9 after 8 minutes. It wasn't quite free-flowing, but Sheffield then hit a couple of threes for Stewart and Eitel Rock, and they were threatening to blow the game open in the second quarter.
Kind of feel that if we go back through the archives, we've talked about this game last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Just even as far as the ending. Yeah, you're right. How Surrey the one thing that concerns me about Surrey is that at the end of this game they had none of their imports on the court. Basically, they had Josh Hunt on the court, and it was Lawrence, and it was the point guard was on the court. So it was Holden, Lawrence, or Robinson, Josh Steele, Teo. And that really kind of freaks me out a little bit, because I understand why it's Hunt or Jameson. I get that, and Hunt spaces the floor, so that's why you use Hunt, and Jameson doesn't. Get Jameson rebounds a basketball, but you might take away your space, so you're using him for the spacing. But I'm looking at all these other guys that they've signed, and it's like you get to the point whereby it's one, some they have to be able to be on the court at the end ahead of Teo. It's not to knock Teo or Josh Steele or anyone like that, but the coach has to be looking at them thinking, I need you in the game, because, and obviously that includes Wang. And Wang was sat down at the end, and he's a second-year player, so there's really no reason why that should be. If you bring a guy back who's basically most athletically gifted player and you can't have him on the court at the end, that's a bit of an issue. During the game, however, Sheffield are so much better playing fast, but they don't play fast until they go behind. They're very methodical. I'm not sure how healthy Cook is, because he didn't play much in the 2 games. Played a little more in this game, in the second game. I know there was talk when he missed the preseason game with injury as well. And that's kind of meant that they've put a lot onto Adekoya, which is more than he's probably had on him at Leicester when he was just kind of 15 to 17 minutes a game guy. And he's now, mid-20s, not upwards of that. And again, the perfect example of a guy who's not going to help you beat yourself, so he fits in. But it means that they really do rely on making jump shots. And Eitel Rock's kind of come in and kind of usurped Stewart a little bit in the way that he's played over the weekend, which again kind of makes him a little bit more, again, a little bit slower in what they do, because Stewart's just basically a gunner. And they have to make shots, and they didn't make many shots in this game. No, Surrey battled, they rebounded. I was slightly concerned at the lack of separation that the guards were able to get, off the dribble, both Lawrence and Robinson, because that's going to be a big thing for them. Holden can certainly play, but he's not going to be the guy he's not Mason Faulkner, if that makes any sense. He's going to be a piece. He's going to be a nice piece, I think. But he's not going to pick up a team by the ears. Or maybe he will, but I haven't seen it yet. So they're going to need something out of Robinson or Lawrence to kind of create shots. And obviously the big problem for those guys is that they've been injured for a long time. So the question, and just like McGill at Newcastle, the question is, what level of quickness do you have when you come back? And how quickly is it going to take you to get to that point? and that hurt them with their shot creation. So in the end of the fourth, I couldn't see how they were going to win the game at the end of the fourth quarter.
So let's just run through it. So Sheffield were up 10, 27-37 just before half time. Jameson 6 points early in the third quarter. Surrey were able to pull it back. It was 47 apiece late in the third quarter. 3:23 to go, 58-60. But there wasn't another score until the final Surrey offense of the fourth quarter. Hunt missed a shot under pressure from Adekoya, but got his own rebound.
Yeah.
And with 11 seconds left, he was fouled by Adekoya, made both free throws. First one was a friendly bounce, but it went in. Sheffield then timeout, advanced the ball. Pipkins looked to drive, kind of slipped a bit, then had the ball knocked away. Nichols picked it up and heaved on the buzzer.
Yeah, it was off. I mean, it was offensively, it was pretty, as I say, I couldn't, the one you're down by 2, but you couldn't see Surrey scoring.
Yeah.
The one that they got was an offensive, and Lloyd's probably got his best offensive players. Then he's got Josh in to spread the floor, and the only shot they were getting at the end was the pick and pops for him.
Yeah.
Because Sheffield are a good perimeter defensive team, and they blanketed the guards, and they couldn't get any particular separation. And you would like them to have at least one import wing give the ball to in that situation, and who can be on the court and who can kind of 6'5", 6'6" guy. We've seen tons of them over the years. Who you can say, go get me a bucket, and they didn't have any of that, unfortunately. But Sheffield, as I say, they went cold as well. So yeah, kind of another 5 minutes at 60-60, 13-13. Absolutely offensive masterclass.
Yeah, so still with the 3 good and with the drive, had the Scorchers 67-64 in front with 2 minutes to go. 1:39 to go. Pipkins with a miss, got his own rebound and tossed it back in. 67-66, and then
just on that, Dan, Pipkins, the guy who scored in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I think. He has a look in his eye this year about I'm coming for this league. I saw a little bit of Plymouth today as well, and he's going to need to get a bit of help.
Yeah, definitely. And I always thought he was slightly underused earlier in the game, but Ramsey then with a steal and a run back layup, 67-68, Sheffield in front. Robinson with a miss. Hunt almost got the rebound, but Nichols then got it. Sheffield ran basically 23.99 seconds before Pipkins fired up a 3. He missed that, steal with the rebound. So come down the other way. Rotino deflects the ball out of bounds. 22 seconds left, 15 on the shot clock. Lloyd calls a timeout, a baseline ball, and then Teo sticking his backside out gets called for a moving screen with 18 seconds to go.
Yeah, got no problem with that call.
No.
It's a call, I don't think he expected the defender to be there. That was the thing. He wasn't trying to set a screen, but you have to be aware of where you are, time and space, and he impacted the defender on the guy who was coming to catch the basketball, and he was in a legal screening position. So yeah, it was a good call.
Pipkins is immediately fouled. He goes 2 for 2 from the free throw line. 67-70, 17 seconds to go. Gooden step back over Adekoya, decent shot off the back of the rim. Hunt bats it out to Robinson, decent shot, back iron. I thought the Robinson one, when it came out to Robinson, I thought he's knocking this down.
Yeah, the first one I wasn't sure about.
Yeah.
But the second one, I mean, you're not going to get a better look. I mean, Lawrence was standing there with his hands up across the court as well. But if you're Robinson at that point, you got to shoot it in maybe 3 weeks' time or 2 months' time. He knocks that down. But it's quite telling, really, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, that game was decided on a steal for a run-out layup, and then 2 foul shots. That was it. The half-court offensive execution. Lots of effort defensively, but the half-court offensive execution was wanting from both teams.
Hunt 15.7 rebounds. Jameson, very Jameson stat line, 13 points, 15 rebounds. Lawrence 11. They shot 34% from the floor and 4 of 28 from 3.
But what I will say about that is as well, that Jameson stat line, Rowe actually made a good point, Claxon.
Yeah.
About Jameson diving down and cutting down in front of people to get rebounding position, and sometimes taking, I think it was a post up that he made the point on, bringing extra defenders down into that area. The constant balance with him because he is a great rebounder, no question at all. And he's certainly probably adequate, maybe even more than adequate finisher around the rim. But it's how do you manage the space around him so everybody else gets looks as well. And that's the kind of the Hunt Jameson trade-off that Lloyd's going to have all season.
Pipkins 18 points, 8 of 12 shooting. Ramsey 10.7 rebounds, 4 assists. Cook 10 points, and they were 4 of 18 from 3. So let's get to the wildest game of the weekend. Bristol Flyers 74, Leicester Riders 92. 2-2 after a minute, and then Pinson, Asbury, Thomas all hit threes. Thomas was getting to the rim as well. Leicester scored 18 consecutive points to lead 20-2 after 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, weird. Leicester were the Harlem Globetrotters in the first quarter, sorry, and probably the Washington Generals in the second quarter. But the interesting thing was, what I liked about Leicester, right, was that one of the issues when you have so many new players to introduce and so many inexperienced new players to introduce is having them form a bond and having them know each other. Okay. And because you're the stat about if you've got 11 players and you're getting 5 out of 11, there's like 700 options, 700 combinations.
Yeah.
When you've got 8 players, there's only 50 combinations. It's a massive difference. And those numbers may not be correct. So what Rob did was he started all the 5 rookies. He started them all. So, right. And no doubt they've been practicing together all week for that specific purpose. Which meant that Mackenzie has to come off the bench, Ado has to come off the bench, Lal, who played 30-odd minutes in the last game, he's coming off the bench. But what he's done is he's basically said, this is my unit, this is the unit, you guys are. Asbury's now healthy, so he can play. I brought all you guys in, see what you got, right? Play together for a week, get comfortable with each other. They're all living the same experience. They're all going through the first year out of college. Take away as much of the potential for confusion amongst them as you can and have them play, right? And what I thought in the first quarter was it wasn't so much their skills, it was a freedom of their mind. Their minds were freed up by that. They're not worried about who's this guy's on the court, that guy's on the court, he wants the ball. Their minds were freed up by the fact they're playing with guys in the same situation as them. They're just out there balling, they practice together all week. We can just go and have fun, right? And I thought that was really smart because coaches love to tinker, mix and match, and that can be counterproductive. The counter to that is that Bristol were horrific.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, I mean they were pedestrian. The
well, Andreas called 2 timeouts, I think inside 5 minutes or something.
I know there was a one before the 5 minute mark. There was a TV timeout and there was one at 4:24.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So 3 timeouts and that, and he was quite right because
and he was I don't know if you heard his post game.
I did actually. Very good. Actually, he did very well.
He did. Yeah.
He got across. He managed to get across his level of irritation without absolutely destroying his team.
Yeah.
But he's quite right because they came out almost like we played well against London. Hey, we're all right. Whereas Leicester came out like, okay, we've got a point to prove because we got blown up by Cheshire and we weren't exactly comfortable against Plymouth. So Bristol came out with an absolute with a mindset which was pretty awful, I thought. Missed a few shots, which never helps. Then had Jacob get injured because he only played 4 minutes in the game, so he never came back.
Yeah,
massive loss for them because he's an energizer, he's an athlete, he's a shot maker, and basically, the Leicester lads were on a jolly for the first quarter and making shots. What was interesting was that you saw the skill sets of why they were signed. You saw Thomas making shots. He's long. He's long. He's like Trayvon Wright long. Probably jump as high, but he's Trayvon Wright long, and he can step outside and make the 3. And that's why Rob signed him. Bridges, you give the ball in the post, he scores. Right? I'm not sure. I think you can stop him getting the ball in the post. And I think you can, I think there are other areas he has to improve on. But he's, if you give him the ball in the post, he's Nelson M, he's going to score. within 8 feet of the basket. You know, Asbury's your shooter. Harris is your bulldog, and
Holmes.
Holmes is your bulldog, and obviously Pinson is your point guard. And I'm sorry, I'm not having Crandall.
There's something body shape about him. I think there's something.
I'm sorry,
I'm not going there yet. Tahir was the one. Tahir did it in pre-season, and I said it was too early. But there is something the way he moves.
The reason I'm saying I'm not having it is that you wouldn't make the comparison unless he was wearing a Leicester vest. If he was the Plymouth point guard, you wouldn't be saying he looks like Crandall. But also Crandall is incredibly good.
Yeah. Although to be fair, Gino wasn't Gino until after Christmas. I don't think in year one.
Maybe. But what Pinson is poised.
Yeah.
Poised, and Pinson can actually shoot the ball.
Yeah.
If you're not up there on the screen and roll, he will pull up and he will shoot it, and it looks like it's going in. And that's the difference between him and Crandall.
Yeah.
Crandall was a dribbling, manipulating, semi-genius in relation to the things he could do. Okay. There were also things that you could until the second year when he wasn't upset with himself and he started making shots. You could make him shoot 3-pointers. Pinson's a far more kind of modern, less fussed point guard. He'll throw there's a little pass here and a little pass there, but it's off 2 dribbles. He ain't going behind his back or around the corner.
Yeah.
It's off 2 dribbles. Yeah. It's what you like in the point, and it's no criticism. So no, I'm sorry. Yeah, hold off on that. Yeah. I'll find a guy who I do think he's like, and I'll come back to you. Okay. But those 5 players, you saw why each of them individually was signed.
Yeah.
You saw why that. Now they're young, so they're going to fly highs and they're going to fly lows, and the lows came in the second quarter.
So Leicester continued basically in that vein for the rest of the quarter. 37 points was the most Bristol have ever given up in a quarter at home. They had 38 against Newcastle, but that was in Newcastle. That's their only worst quarter. Flyers only just got into double figures. Riders were 27 points up after 10 minutes. And as far as I can go back, there's nobody ever come back from that sort of margin and won a game. So second quarter, as you would expect, that's unsustainable. Flyers got a little bit of momentum. Thomas Edwards usually plays well against Leicester. He was doing some nice things. Bristol, they still weren't shooting the ball very well, but they crashed the glass
played hard.
a bit. Yeah,
they played hard for about. And didn't you see that? I remember actually just talking about memory there. I remember we played at the shopping centre against Vincent Milton Keynes. 2009, 2010, I think we were 35-10 after a quarter. That was fun. It wasn't a fun game the rest of the way because Yori got stuck in. And there's actually, and that remembering that game is interesting in relation to what happened with Leicester in this game, because you have a sense. I had a sense in that game that, oh God, we can't lose from here.
Yeah,
we're up 35-10.
Yeah.
And there was a game that we played at Plymouth in the season that we won the league, and when Fab wasn't there, and I was doing it. The season we won a clean sweep with Fletcher in 2014. Played at Worcester on the Saturday night, and we went up against Plymouth, and we played at Plymouth with like 6 players and no guards, and we were winning like 42-15.
Yeah.
And it's not sustainable. Yeah. And the mental kind of pressure that places on you because you're trying to keep, because your guys are on the bench kind of happy.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's still 30 minutes to go, which is a hell of a lot of time. And that there's some talent on the other side of the court.
Yeah.
Right. And in that game, in the Milton Keynes game, it was AJ Harris and Yorick Williams. It's like, okay. And Mike New and people like that. So it was a proper team,
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and everything that goes wrong, he gets back to 21. It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, and then the rest make a couple of calls because the refs always tend to make a couple of calls.
Yeah. Scoreboard calls.
So the other team's playing harder, so they might get a 50-50 call or a 90-10 call.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And the kind of the mentality you get into a very quick siege mentality.
Yeah, in some ways, it's a bit like aggregate basketball in that you start to worry about the points that you've lost rather than thinking about the ones you've still got.
Absolutely. So the siege, siege mentality, and I think that's probably what kicked in a little bit with Rob.
Yeah.
But we didn't see it. So yes, if they
So
really,
let's get to that bit. Ollison with a 3,
yeah,
35-47. So Leicester's lead is down to 12. 2:21 to go. Riders call a timeout, and then you can only just see a very small kernel of it in the corner of the screen before, because it's an end line ball at the other end of the floor. So the
yeah.
cameras naturally go to that. There's a technical foul. We have no idea quite why. And then the free throw is shot and made, and then there's another technical foul,
Well,
and that was the end of it.
yeah, I mean, you can pass the word on to your cameraman that whenever there is any sort of kind of whistle that away from a play that they're not showing, they need to immediately focus on the referee.
Well, I did at talkback say we need to see the coach here. We need to see the
Coach, yeah,
coach.
we need to see
Yeah,
the coach, but
yeah,
also, if there's a whistle, something's been
yeah,
called.
yeah,
Put the referee on screen, then we know what it is.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
generally, the referee will be the focal point of the coach who is angry. So
yeah,
then
yeah,
the coach onto the screen. So
yeah, yeah.
immediately hear a whistle out of it. Don't need the commentators guessing. Put the ref on the screen. Forget about the close-ups of somebody just made a shot. That's kind of a basketball thing for the director and the producers to get used to. But yeah, so the ref involved is David Griffin down from London, because there was Ed, and Ed was at the baseline, and I think Gavin was Gavin Williams, I think, at the
Or was it Josh Bow?
was it
Can't
Josh?
remember now. I can't
Anyway,
remember.
but I'm pretty sure it was David Griffin who was the third ref.
Yeah, I think that bit's right. Yeah.
Okay, well, fair enough. So he was he's a ref. So about 2 minutes earlier, there'd been I thought, a pretty egregious kind of non-call when on the halfway line, when one of the Leicester guards had been bringing the ball up the court, and I think maybe ref Thomas Edwards had stepped across and kind of ushered him out of bounds in an entirely legal way. Well, I think that probably got Rob's ire, because I would have got my ire if I'd seen that, because I would have thought, well, hang on, that's a scoreboard call. They're putting a bit of pressure on, fine, but my guy's going down the sideline, and your guy's he's not in anywhere near a legal goal position. So, and on top of that, you have, and the only time Rob's ever really been thrown out of games is down south.
Yeah.
And I've always, we've always
there was definitely one in London, because it was a TV game I was doing that, and Phil Gledel took over. I can't remember if there's another one.
No, I'm not sure. But sometimes, yeah, I mean, as you said on the comment, I think you said in the commentary, nobody knows when to stop. What I will say is that after he's had a technical, he normally has one more bite.
Yeah.
When I've been in the gym, and I've there's a couple of games at Newcastle, you'll get a technical, then you'll have a kind of another little bite, which the refs will normally walk past and ignore, and you'll sit down coaching again.
As they should, in my view.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
but it all depends on what's said.
Yeah. So my take on it is, anybody who gets a technical, and more so coaches than players, but anybody who gets a technical, there's almost like a 15 to 30 second amnesty for me, as long as you're not going, you know what I mean, or you're not, done a old Bobby Knight chair throwing, throwing the ball trolley on court and smashing a microphone or whatever. As long as you're not doing that.
What do you think about clipboards?
Clipboard, no. If you throw a clipboard, no, you're not allowed to do that. Off you go for a clipboard.
I don't remember that ever happening.
No, I don't remember that ever happening at Worcester. Worthing, sorry. So that's my take, that the sort of technical encompasses, it's like you go up in court and you go, and I'll plead guilty to 14 other burglaries as well while I'm here. So it's that sort of thing. But there comes a point where the referee needs to go, okay, that's it. If you say one more word, there's a second technical and come. But you get like a little warning before you do that, because an ejection is a significant.
Well, it is pretty in the second quarter. I mean, the only game I ever got ejected from, that was exactly the same. I gave Neil Wilkerson a piece of my mind, and then he teed me up, and I kind of went, And he did. He teed me up again.
Yeah. But you always say know your opposition, know the
You know
referees.
the referee,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And we all know Neil, and you deserve
Exactly.
that.
Well, the game, it was 2 seconds to go. The game was done. So at that point, I was just enjoying the perp walk out of Worcester Arena. No, but the point about know your referees is right. Now, David Griffin doesn't ref many games in Leicester. And he's primarily based in the south, certainly from what I've seen, the refs. So you've got somebody there who's quite young, who's maybe got more of a hair trigger than you're aware of. So maybe, just this once, kind of the normal, as you say, the normal 15 seconds afterwards wasn't met with the whatever. We're all kind of guessing because we don't know what we're saying.
We don't.
I don't want to get it. And in reality, it didn't harm Leicester because it then refocused their players.
It was, oh gosh, I've just done something there. It was David Griffin and Tahir Akar was the third referee, according to my spreadsheet. So
Tahir, who may also have been present at the clipboard.
Oh, really? There we go.
Oh God! Everything links together in British basketball.
Yeah.
Separation.
So that completely discombobulated Leicester, and for the next few minutes, halftime couldn't come quick enough, really, for them. And they'd got it to 9 at halftime, Bristol, and then Keedy Johnson with a 3 at the start of the third quarter. He'd hit one at the end of the second. It's 44-50. And you think, oh, that whole thing of it can't happen. It might happen here, and then Pinson two threes at the midpoint of the third quarter pushed it back out to 16. And
I thought Bristol deflated like a beach ball.
Yeah, they did.
Pinson really kind of made those plays were really important because they weren't easy threes. They were threes just coming off a screen, pulling up in rhythm, nice shots, good plays, but making those shots really settled his team, and that was probably his most important or most impressive contribution. It's not how many points you get, how many rebounds you get, it's when you get them. And that was the thing that kind of settled his team because it gives them Kimball in reserve, which is a good thing to have. And Bristol just deflated. But Bristol, you can't beat Leicester. You can't beat anybody in this league if your point guard's going for like 4 points and 6 turnovers. That was Lucas. Lucas really struggled in this game. They didn't have Jacob, so then you're left with Ollison and Johnson. Johnson is athletic and he's capable, but he was also minus 30. So he could score, but I don't think he was necessarily scoring in the way or playing in the way that Coach Kapoulis was overly keen on because he wasn't playing at some of the times in the third and the fourth quarter. So that basically gave Ollison an unbelievable burden. To create shots, to make shots, and to do that, and that's just not something that he can conceivably sustain. So, I was impressed with Leicester. Congrats to Pablo. I know what it's like. It's great.
Moves his career record to 0-0,
which is also horrendously unfair. Horrendously unfair. He even gets the ones when the head coach isn't there, doesn't he?
Yeah. They all go to the coach.
Yeah. Head coach is lying in hospital, and we beat Plymouth. We still want a win for him. The game was going on.
Go talk to Luke Walton, mate.
Oh, a load of rubbish. Anyway, but no, we know, Pablo, we know.
Yeah.
And so
I've seen he's coached my son, so I've seen him on the side. He can throw a clipboard, to be fair.
Good for him. Can't we all, man? We all can. Yeah. Nice. And so Bristol, it was really kind of concerning. Now, obviously, they're without Jacob and they're without Cunningham. So that's 2 guys that they're without. Green's in a funk. And has not been the best big guy on the court in the past 3 games, and they really need to work out what they've got with him and how best to utilize him because it's not all going to be like the first game of the season against Plymouth. And obviously Raul is just coming back, so their shot creation isn't there. The physicality and their effort levels were there. Rafe Thomas Edwards played great. He attacked, he rebounded, played with passion, he defended, but you're going to need a little bit more than that. And as I say, Watson, Gale and Miller last year with the ball in their hands allowed Ollison and Mahan to play off the ball, to make shots and to crash the glass. And they were always a threat. And Lucas in this game disappointed me because he turned down shots. He was running plays. He was running a play instead of making a play, and that's not sustainable. So he has to get out there and show what he's got. And they've got Europe.
Yeah, Thomas hit 2 threes in an 8-0 run. It was 20, and that was the game. They have got Europe, yes. Well, I've still not quite worked out the schedule of that competition.
Newcastle
But
are playing in
I know
Lithuania.
Newcastle are playing in Lithuania this week, but it doesn't seem, it's not like
Two
Eurocup where
groups,
you
I
play
think.
every week. But
No, I
you
think
don't play every week, do you?
no, the two groups play week on, week off, I think.
Okay,
And then there's a week gap. So I mean, they're only 7 games. The Eagles and the Flyers only play 7 games, and they play those 7 games between now and February. So it's there's one now. One
It's not quite as brutal as the old other way around, NEBL, Northern European Basketball League. Go talk to Rob about that. I remember when Rob was at Birmingham, they were playing in the NEBL, and I think they were playing in another competition as well, and they had a schedule where they had something like I want to say 18 games in 30 days or something.
Oh, it was nonsense. And that was a team with Garcia and
yeah.
That competition actually indirectly is the reason that Fab became the coach in Newcastle, because Tony G left Newcastle to go to
Birmingham.
They were playing in Europe.
Yeah.
So if that had never happened, then
sliding doors.
Then sliding doors. Yeah, absolutely.
Ollison 17.6 rebounds, Johnson 15, Thomas Edwards 15 points, 11 rebounds, 36% field goal shooting, 21 offensive rebounds, 24 second chance points. There's Bristol for you. Thomas 18.7 of 10, Pinson 17.7 rebounds, 9 assists. Holmes and McKenzie both had 13. They finished 12 of 26 for 3, which is good, but not as good as it was in the first quarter.
No, but the spacing was so much better. You saw it, and then they were able to get Walker. Pablo was able to get Walker in for the fourth quarter, which was important because they're going to need something out of him. And the only guy who kind of looked a little bit unsettled by it all was Lal, because he came to the bench and he'd been playing, and he missed a couple of shots. He wasn't really in any rhythm. But if you've got one guy out of rhythm and you've got 6 guys into rhythm, then you probably did a good job.
Yeah. Let's come to today's games. Plymouth City Patriots 92, Sheffield Sharks 87. Not that I'm blaming my parents for my lack of preparation for Sunday Night Breakdown, but my dad had this guy who used to work with in the 80s come over from America, so we went round for Sunday lunch and that. So I had it sort of vaguely on in the background, but
I went to Sainsbury's yesterday to purchase a Sunday lunch. It was obviously microwavable.
Yeah.
It was done for 2:30, so I would.
That's the level of a commitment I expect from you, Dave. Maybe felt a little bit of a schedule loss this one for
it's harsh. I mean, overtime game in Surrey, and it's early season, and it's Plymouth, and Plymouth desperately needed to win. You have to get your first win. But I still felt that Sheffield should have won. I actually think they've let one slip, which is strange because they were down 20. But I mean, it's a tough place to go, and you're playing, as I say, second game, your 3 o'clock tip as well, which is never great. Even if it's 5 o'clock at Surrey, it's still not great. But it's great for getting back home at a reasonable time, to be fair.
Yeah, there is that. So even first quarter, and then DeAndre Johnson, Hart and Wiley all hit threes. They had an 18-3 start to the second quarter, Plymouth, and 36-22 up midway through. They even got as far as 20 at one stage.
Yeah, Sheffield couldn't knock down a shot. Ramsey kind of had a pretty I don't know if it's a regression to the mean, or he kind of dropped off this weekend in both games. He's the Ramsey, he was still playing with energy, and he's still defensively a pest, and he gets his hand in places, but it's hard work coming off those screens to shoot 18-foot jump shots. If that's the offense that you need, that your team needs to create. And then they weren't really able to throw it into Cook because he hardly played, which means that you're going through Adekoya. Adekoya is totally different to Cook. If you're defending, you're not particularly concerned about Adekoya getting the ball in the post. You're going to put a body up against him. You're going to stay down. You're going to make a post move. He might make 1 or 2, but what he's really looking for is for you to overcommit so he can step past you, or overcommit off a shooter so he can throw it out. So that changes their dynamic. You then add in the fact that, as I say, Stewart's in the doghouse by the looks of it, because he hardly played. Then you're relying on those guys, Kipper Nichols, Jordan, Routinho, and Jalen Pipkins
To be fair, the bits of it I did see, there was a lot of Idle Rock playing well.
Oh, we're going to get to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the X Factor who I think
Mm.
Atiba probably wishes he'd went to a bit earlier.
Mm.
But he kind of got Stewart's minutes,
Mm.
So you were like, oh, those guys, and they're running that system and they're playing, but they're playing slow. They're not making shots. So by half time, they've got 30 points or 29 points or something like that. And that means, you've dug yourself a hole. Now they scored 58 in the second half.
Mm.
So when the reason I say this game got away from them was because, that's yin and yang. You to say, oh, it's a schedule loss, they were tired. Well, how come they went for 29 in the first half?
Yeah,
50
yeah.
That doesn't
If
quite
it had gone the other way, it fits the narrative a bit
if it's a
better.
matter, if your legs go short and you miss jump shots at the end, I'll live with it. But in fact, they just couldn't catch up. They needed another 2 minutes in the game. Another 2 minutes in the game, they probably win it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Plymouth, they did what they were meant to do. They're interesting because they're all talented. They've all got enough talent to be there, I think. And that you couldn't say that for all of last year. Some of them who were kind of a little bit of a drop off of BBL talent, but these guys are all good enough. So the question is how quickly are they gonna gel, and also can they defend? Because what happened was when Sheffield started going quicker in the second half, and particularly Ike Rock, who we talk about, who was able to get shoulder past, get to the rim. Kipper Nichols, when Kipper went down low, and then the offensive rebounded with Al, they couldn't get a stop. And their defense was, when they were tired, was pretty ropey. So they're going to need to be able to defend. If they can defend, they'll probably score enough to win some games at home. The best thing about this game for me was the absolute 3-card trick that Mason Faulkner pulled on Gavin Williams, a ref.
I missed it. What was it?
He's knackered, right?
Yeah.
6 minutes to go. I think in the third quarter, maybe the fourth quarter. He's out. Faulkner, they've been going up and down for about 3 minutes. Nothing's up. And Sheffield have got a press on. And the ball, and then it goes to one guard, then another guard, and then they throw it back to Faulkner. And he's he looks like he's out on his feet. There's 18 seconds on the shot clock, or 19 seconds on the shot clock. And he says to Gavin Williams, "There's some sweat on the ball." My admiration for that man. I think it was Marco on. It was Marco on the Sharks bench. Who I think one of the Sharks guys saw what happened. He got up straight away because that was an 8-second call waiting to happen, or a turn or something, right? And Gavin took the book. Yeah, okay, wipe it off. And I'm interested in that because I don't blame Gavin for it because it's a natural thing. I'm interested to know what the requirements are about that because I don't think it shouldn't happen. If you shouldn't be if the ball's live, the ball's in play, you can't just turn around.
I don't know.
You can't do it. And so as I say, Faulkner, I've got his card is marked. I'm interested in watching him every week now because if you can come up with something like that, and maybe I'm doing him a disservice, maybe the ball was sweaty.
But even still, I'm not sure the ruling on it. If he'd crossed the midcourt and was there, and there's no strategic advantage, then maybe
no problem at all. But there wasn't. So anyway, that was a bit. I love that. I just absolutely that's the type of golden buzzer type of stuff that I like.
So Sheffield had a 9-0 finish to the third quarter to 68-59. They then had a 12-3 run in the fourth quarter to 81-78. Let's go through the last couple of minutes. Taylor Johnson from the free throw line, 1 of 2, 82-78. Plymouth get a good stop, but then Noble blows a layup in transition.
It's a bad play. You had to pull that out.
Yeah, and then similarly, Kipper with a good post move, and then he needs to make that layup as well. And this time down, Noble does score in transition. It's 84-78.
Johnson made the play. Johnson passed it, made it open.
It was a good pass. Yeah. He couldn't miss it. He couldn't miss that one. 1:10 to go. Idle Rock in the corner, big shot, knocked it down, 84-81. And then 52.9. Taylor Johnson to the rim, 1 or 2 free throws. Adekoya fouls out at that point, 85-81. Other way, Idle Rock to the rim, fouled, makes 2 free throws, 85-83, 40.6 seconds to go. Plymouth then runs some clock. 19.2 seconds. Taylor Johnson drives, kicks to the corner. There's Faulkner for 3:88.83.
Yeah, a couple of things. Firstly, it'll rock. You've got, I said after the first game, he only played 10 minutes in Newcastle. He played with some poise, but he was looked woefully out of shape, and I'm sure he's getting in shape. He may be this year's Watson Gale. British kid out of college, comes in and plays like he belongs. I still think there's a scouting report to go out on him. Everything he does is kind of either the jump shot, it's either the set shot or going right. But he's a powerful guy. And he's not many guards like him we've had in the league because he's about 6'5", and he's got a handle. But most importantly, in the games he's played, he's had poise. And that's the thing that comes out with him. You don't feel like he's being rushed, and that's probably the way he's always played. So he's a real option for that team, and he's also a potential option for GB if he gets himself into the shape that I'm sure he's going to get himself into. And making shots in the fourth quarter as well is different than making shots.
Yeah, it is.
That
was the thing to me. Again, I went back and watched the last 4 minutes uninterrupted so that I could get the end of it. And that was the thing. It's sort of like one thing to see him playing well earlier in the game, but to hit the corner three, to go to be taking it to the rim and knocking down free throws is a good sign.
And then Sheffield blew it, I'm afraid, because I know you said Johnson penetrated and kicked it to Faulkner for the corner three, but that was a strong side three.
Yeah, he was.
That was.
I'm not sure where the defender was.
Well, what happens is players, particularly when heightened emotions at the end of the game, everybody wants to make a play, but the fundamental principle is that if someone's dribbling down the one side of the court with the basketball, you help from the other side. You do not help from the guy who stood in the corner right next to you, because it's the easiest pass. And when the guy who stood in the corner happens to be Faulkner, who's demonstrated that he's both Plymouth's best shooter and possibly has the largest cojones of anybody on the team already, then the last thing you do is go anywhere near him. In fact, they ran a weave on that play, and I was thinking, and Faulkner gave it up. And I was thinking, don't let him get it back. If I'm Sheffield, do not let him catch that ball back. And they didn't just let him catch it back; they let him just stand there in a rhythm corner three.
Yeah.
So they blew it. So he made the shot, and Johnson made the right play. That's an easy play.
Yeah, it is an easy play.
Johnson had nowhere to go really, because it was another 5 second shot clock. He didn't have a lane at the rim. So Sheffield did a good job. So I don't know who was in that corner, but I'm sure Atiba will be reminding him of his defense.
Yeah, I would imagine too.
And that's why I think they kind of let that one down. Now Sheffield done all right. They're 2-2. They played 4 away games. Now they got home, but they got a new venue coming in. They got some home games to play. So they can't be overly disappointed. They played without Glasgow. Coke's not fully fit. They've got good minutes out of it or rock. So there's things to be optimistic there for them. I thought that game, the way they played in the second half, with the urgency that they played, that was there for them in the first half. They didn't.
They got into the foul game, but Taylor Johnson made the free throw, so they couldn't get back into having the ball only down one shot. Faulkner 24, Taylor Johnson 20, Wiley 15, 51% from the floor and 40% from three. Plymouth. Idlerock 20 points, 5 of 6 field goals, 7 of 10 from the line. Pipkins 17 points, 7 of 10 shooting, and Nichols 14 points and 6 rebounds. So to the final game of the weekend, Cheshire Phoenix 82, London Lions 91. This is a fun game. I got home 10 minutes late, so I was catching up on it. Up and down, Cheshire knocking down threes to keep them in front, and they hit a couple in the final minute, 24-16 ahead.
Yeah, last game was 2 hours 5 minutes. By the way, that's my 2 hours 6 minutes. That's my little bitch about game times. Moving on, this game, I mean, well, Cheshire, as I say, it's like coming out to play against them. It must be like you've had and I've never done this, but maybe you had a cup of LSD first, because you're really trying to figure out what they are. At one point, they were playing this game with Charjois and David Olf in the game. Another point, they're playing with Aaron Ryan and Skylar White as a big guys. It's like totally Bipolar, as Ro put it in the Bristol game. Best comment he's ever made. I really like that. A bipolar half. That was really, really good, actually. So in London, as I said, I don't think London are scouting anybody at the moment. Or they're not scouting anybody substantially. I think they'd scout the weight because everybody scouted the weight because he knocked all those threes. But in relation to kind of the detail on everything else, at one point, in the first quarter, I think Kieran Sandy was in the game and he was matched up with Aaron Rye. And I'm looking at it, thinking that's a bit of an assignment for the young lad. You're coming on, you're giving them the guy they're going to go through. So they Cheshire did what they really did at Newcastle. They started off, picking on mismatches, playing with energy, kind of almost lulling you into throwing the ball in the post, and they did that with Olaseni, and he's bouncing off Skylar White because Skylar White's a sturdy individual, and then they missed a couple of shots, and then Matt Moore and Conor Morgan got hurt, which is a big loss for them because we were talking about he was the guy who pops up just is open. He already made a couple, and he got hurt. I think he might have had 30 in that game if he hadn't, because he was getting a lot of open looks. And so London were kind of a little bit out of rhythm, and Cheshire kind of keep coming at you, and then and the guards keep coming at you. And Jack makes a three, even when London go on a bit of a run, they come back and they make shots. Stevens makes a couple of threes from the corner.
Yeah, so just to tidy that one up, London with a 16-2 start to the second quarter to 32-26, and then Jack and Rideau both hit threes. Cheshire 10 in a row to go back in front 36-32. A White three finished the half, so Cheshire were 43-41 ahead. But as you say, midway through the second quarter, Conor Morgan appeared to roll an ankle or something, limped out of the game.
It's a problem for them. So as I say, Olaseni must have felt like he was, he's been playing in Champions League, he's been playing in Turkey, he's been doing all sorts of things. He must have felt like he landed on Mars. This team in this environment, with the way that they play. I don't imagine he's ever come up against or in the recent past come up against a team who was quite so certain of the way they're going to play and that they're going to utilize White the way that they did. Now, when White played at Guildford, he was a 4. He didn't play the 5, or he might have occasionally, but primarily he played the 4 spot, and they were quite traditional. So he was Conor Morgan. They've gone absolutely, kind of Batman crazy and said, "Oh, he ain't playing the 4; he's playing the 5." Religion or whatever, and other teams are going to have to adjust to us, and that means Olaseni's got kind of thing. I've got to guard this guy 28 feet from the basket, and not just guard him. I've got to actually not just be there. I've got when he goes backwards, I've got to go with him. It's a totally foreign thing, and then. And I think it kind of took London out a little bit of what they do. And on top of that, there are obviously a little bit of cruise control going on as well.
So traded scores in the third quarter until Matt Morgan, Sholawari, and Nelson gave London a 59-67 lead, but Stevens 3 on the buzzer cut it to 3. Let's go to the bit in the middle of the fourth quarter, where I thought Cheshire got 3 very unfortunate calls in a row. First one, Rideau got a putback. Rye goes to the basket. His shot goes off the backboard, touches the rim, falls down into the hands of Rideau, who puts the ball in. The score is 74-71 at that point. The referees didn't see the ball hit the rim, but it was clear on the replay that it had hit the rim. So called a shot clock violation, assuming it hadn't hit the ring, and therefore Rideau's putback was after the shot clock buzzer. So that would have been a 5-point lead for Cheshire.
Yeah, there was 3 things about that play, though, wasn't there? I mean, the first thing was that he did, as Lloyd said, he did hook him. Rye hooked him on the drive. The second thing was, if they're not going to call it the hook, they actually should have called it goaltend, because
I did wonder about goaltend as well.
Bang the glass.
Yeah.
Bang the glass. I mean, that's I've seen a far less egregious banging of the glass as being called a goaltend. So it should never have got to the point that it was a 24-second violation or not, because the ball was close enough to the rim and the guy wobbled the backboard. And I don't know, it might have been Grantham. I can't remember. So that was that, and then obviously they got the 24-second wrong, and that I think would probably be a reviewable play, wouldn't it?
That would be, yeah, I would have thought that would be a reviewable play. Whether they would give you the basket or whether they'd give you a sideline ball is
I
another
think they would
question.
probably give you the goaltend.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, well,
They wouldn't give you the.
it's one of those questions of if you're reviewing one thing, can you see another? I don't know. Is the
I
answer.
don't think it would be. You couldn't give them the layup because the game's stopped by then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could give them back. Yeah, and if you're reviewing a goaltend, or ball it's about, you should be able to anyway. But
Yeah.
that's where they would have benefited.
So there was that. The
Yeah.
other end of the floor, Phillips drives to the basket, scores. He's sort of stumbling over. He crashes into Rideau. We don't get the best camera angle of it. But the call goes against Rideau. Rideau gets called for a foul. And then obviously Ben, words to the effect of what was that call, gets a technical. So they get a free throw from that. The two counted from the original shot, and then they scored on the play. And so what could have been 76-71 becomes 74-76.
Yeah, I mean, I thought initially that it was just kind of a blow your whistle because he's fallen over. Let's just hold the game and check he's all right. Then I thought, well, they must have called. It must have been a late call on the shot contest, which had gone in. And when it turned out that it was because, he kind of stood on Riddle's foot, I mean, and from what I can see, Riddle didn't do anything. And why would you? It's not something, it's not a basketball play. If Riddle's fouled him there, that's an unsportsmanlike foul.
Yeah, and even if he sort of like pushed him out of the way because it's because he's banged into him. He was falling out off balance, so it's not deliberate by Philip either. To me, it's just a nothing. And then to call a technical for disputing what is a disputable call, it just compounds the error to me.
I've seen that, and that happens in a lot of games, and it's always the coach's side of that will always be, you've just aggravated your error. You've made a double mistake. The ref side of that will be, you should just shut up.
But we were told pre-season that there would be more dialogue and slower to the technical, and I don't think in that case it was, and I also think certainly with the second technical in Bristol that it seemed too quick.
Yeah,
in my view, I don't know whether the first one was warranted, but I mean.
As I say, I'm going to sit on the fence because I wasn't there. If I was there, I wouldn't sit on the fence. I'd tell you what I thought.
Yeah.
There, then it's difficult. I mean, Ben got a technical on Friday at Newcastle for kind of quite an audible. He picked the quietest moment.
You could.
Produced a word that probably shouldn't be used in family. In family discussions. So there is that. I mean, I did have an unbelievable amount of sympathy in relation to that call. I'll be honest, because it's giving them the ball back. I mean, that's the thing. It's shot, and I couldn't. And as I say, if for that to be a foul, the ball is dead basically.
Yeah.
The ball through the right. So for you to think that is a foul in some way, that would have to be for me an unsportsmanlike act by Riddle when the ball is dead, commit a foul, right? Which means that you're saying he's either deliberately tripped him when the ball's dead, he's seen him coming, or he's deliberately body checked him or something like that, neither of which I saw, and I didn't think that happened. Right? No. But if you're going to call a foul, that's all it can be.
Yeah.
So it's a totally incoherent call. And the technical is as a technical is. It's only one shot. It's not what it used to be, two in the ball. But even so, I thought the call
still turns into a 5-point play. What should have been a 2-point play.
I agree, but the call was befuddling. Because as I say, if you're going to call that, then that's unsportsmanlike.
I thought that was. I'm not convinced they would have gone on to win the game, but I think that was just a couple of moments where, if they were going to go on to win the game, they needed those to go their way.
Well, what happened was the guy I told you last week was quite good. Showed up.
Yeah, he was quite good, wasn't he? Matt Morgan 3, Matt Morgan layup, Grantham 3, Lions out to 9. Nick's
Grantham 3 was off of Matt Morgan penetration.
Yeah, it was. Nick's actually had some decent looks from from three, but didn't knock them down, so couldn't pull it back.
You have to play the perfect offensive game, don't you?
Yeah.
The thing that got me was that, at the end of the game, Coach Bozic, again, he went with the three smalls. He went with Jordan Taylor, who played great defense in this game. Didn't get himself on the stat sheet, but played great defense. Jordan Taylor, Matt Morgan, and Tariq Phillip. And we're all talking as if, it was the beginning of the season. It was like, well, Newcastle are going to play three guards. You've got Plymouth playing three guards. You've got London Lions playing three guards. You've got Leicester have got more guards than they can shake a stick at. So it's becoming a thing. I mean, even at the end of the game, Surrey, Andrew Lawrence, Holden, and Justin Robinson. It is becoming a thing, and the reason for that is because it helps with the space. And what they did was they stopped trying to throw the ball inside to Olsenny. They stopped trying to play the bully ball stuff, which wasn't working because it allowed them to collapse. And they had Matt Morgan come off little curl screens. And once he got the ball going downhill, then he's not going to stop him.
Yeah.
And you have to trail the screen because you can't go under the down screen, because if you go under it, he's just going to step back and
shoot.
Yeah. And so the only way you can defend that is having someone who's 7'2" at the rim, is having Josh Sharma at the rim. Fortunately, Josh sat on the bench for London.
Or Kyler Kelly.
Who's sat on the bench somewhere else. Yeah. So so it really becomes he's almost like a supercharged version of the Sam Decker get out of jail free card. You know that ultimately he has the confidence, he has the wherewithal, and the knowledge and his ability to score in multiple ways at the end of the game, and he's got players there who are smart enough to get in the ball. So Matt Morgan had 32 points or 31 points in 33 in 28 minutes. Jordan Taylor didn't have any. But don't underestimate how important Jordan Taylor is. Matt Morgan having 33 points. Or Tariq Phillip in that point. And that was a game which impressed me. London impressed me because they learned on the fly. Further impressed me because they beat the spread. Which I took happily yesterday.
Betting with Dave.
At 10.5 today, which they didn't beat. So thank you for it. Thank you for that. But no, they impressed me because they adjusted as the game went on, and they've got the weapons to adjust with, But the players have this assurance, and particularly those three guards. And then Luke Nelson is the fourth guard, who could easily be one of those guards, just happened not to be him today. To know that they could get a bucket when they needed it. And Cheshire missed a few shots, had some decent looks. And London's defense on Cheshire wasn't great, but no one's defense on Cheshire has been great because Cheshire presents such a complex set of issues at this point to all teams. But ultimately Matt Morgan was getting layups, or he was getting uncontested corner threes at the end. Whereas Cheshire's shots were a little bit more contested than that, a little bit harder, and they're going to have to play the perfect game to beat that.
Yeah, Rye with 20 and 8, Jack with 12, and White with 12. They were 12 of 31 for three, 21 points off turnovers as well for Cheshire. Matt Morgan, 33 points, 10 of 15 shooting, 6 of 6 from 2-point range, 7 rebounds, 9 of 9 from the free throw line as well. Phillips 16, Grantham 12 and 6, and they were 12 of 32 from 3.
Yeah, I will say, this game was worth listening to just for Lloyd's assessment. The point he made about Rye's defense was nailed on. The guy was helping at the right time in the right place. We hear this kind of phrase, high IQ basketball player thrown around, and obviously he went to Dartmouth, so it kind of fits a nice little stereotype.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I don't like stereotypes, but the way that he plays, lends itself to that description, because you don't see there is the odd time that he isn't able to make a play athletically in the post if the right guys are defending him in the right way, but his decision making is never wrong. He's going to where he thinks he can do it. And there was a time he threw the bullet pass out to the corner, and there's defensive help whereby the lines, he's come off his man at the right time, and he's got a steal. So he is, he impresses, and I thought the kind of the ongoing analysis of the game was really illuminating. And I'm not saying it's only because I'm generally saying that because I haven't heard Lloyd on commentary before. So if people want to go and listen and learn something about that, about what a coach saw in that situation, that would be worthwhile. And the other thing that just came back to me was Mason Faulkner again. I can't get him out of my head. He has kind of first year Zaire Taylor type stuff going on. I'm telling you that.
Which may not always be good, but
we'll see what his hair's like in 2 years' time. But no, what
when he starts coming in the dressing gown, then
the dressing gown and stuff, But no, just in relation to primarily the manner in which he carries himself, and also the willingness to shoot the ball, big shot. You can see that in him. You can see it. And that big shot always to go in because played for about a year without missing a big shot. That's doing 3 out of 4. So so I just came back to us there. But Aaron Wright, difficult guy to categorize. Other than he's demonstrating that he's one of the best players in the league.
So it's still too early for the table, but everybody bar Surrey with a win, everybody bar London with a loss. That's as close as I'll give to you. Did you ask SMB today? I didn't notice.
I didn't actually, because I thought there was 7 games, and I thought,
good point. Good point. We'll save it for the shorter weeks.
I've been spouting opinions off all weekend on Twitter anyway.
I noticed that. Yeah, I did see.
Didn't need any more. All right.
Yeah, I did say I had to correct you about the.
Well, I expect nothing less. I'm a factual creature. I'm happy to be corrected.
So next Sunday, I am at work.
I'm
all
right, because I'm at Centre Parks.
Oh, are you? You're not watching Sheffield, Newcastle, and Plymouth versus Bristol?
No, only on the telly Friday night.
Two little local derbies that aren't quite local.
Derbies, so no. I'm off down year 1 on Friday night. That'll be a fun trip, and then trying to avoid cycling around Nottinghamshire on the Saturday and the Sunday.
There you go.
So it might end up being Monday.
It will be Monday because I won't be back in time.
Okay, well, I won't be back
that's good. Neither of us. You see how we do our production meetings on air, people. Neither of us available next Sunday, so we'll be back next Monday night.
I can't stand talking to you off air.
Yeah. There is that.
What is it? There was something in the news about the first take guys, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp.
Oh yeah.
About how Shannon Sharp said, "I never spoke to him for 7 years or something."
Me and Dave hate each other. That's basically it.
But no, that's cool. That works. We'll do Monday, and then see what we'll go. And just kind of a brief kind of synopsis of any European games,
Yeah, because I've got, I think, 4 games this week, so I won't have time to watch anything really.
I'm cool with that.
All good for me. So we'll park it there for this Sunday night. Enjoy whatever games you go to, you watch, or you listen to this week, and Dave and I will be back next week on Monday night to do it all over again. But for now, goodbye.
Hey guys.